Welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, your number one home for all things Bison basketball. My name is Chip Washington, the self-appointed Bison basketball fanatic.
Hey, what's up, Bison Nation? It's your boy, Brian B. Smooth Poston, still the lover of all things Howard, lover of all things basketball, always repping the Mecca, one bucket at a time. One bucket at a time. And we look forward to tapping in with one of our favorite coaches on staff today. So this is a good one. You got to tune in, but we want to make sure you know it's always a good time to hit the subscribe button and follow us, because we're trying to make sure you can hear all the stories about Howard and what we're doing to make it the number one program in your hearts. Chip?
Indeed. And before we get to Coach, Bison Nation, you know we always remind you to donate to the Mecca Society. That is Howard's Name, Image, and Likeness Collective. It's an excellent way to support the student athletes. You can do that by going to themeccasociety.org. You can also donate to the athletics department at hubison.com and give at that same site through the Bison Express Booster Club. And as always, please continue to tell everyone about this podcast. Hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the like button. You can hear us just about anywhere. You can hear us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, and you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. So please continue to tell everybody about the podcast, about the show, support this Dream Factory championship culture, and we're going to make it happen today. So, yes.
Man,
so,
you get me hype every time, man. I'm ready to run through a wall every time you do that intro, bro. It's always from the heart. It's always from the heart. Hey, man, you've been having a good off season so far? Been having a good off season?
So far, so good. I'm working on my jumper. You know, just in case the team needs one more player. I'm ready.
My understanding is they're looking for a little bit of size, and unless you're gonna grow, they may be able to redshirt you. I know you got about 3 more years of eligibility left after that knee injury.
I got 4.5. It's like when you don't have a jumper and you just always open. It's a reason why I got 4.5 years of eligibility, because I can't play.
I love it. They could have kept the grade point average up with you on the team. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Awesome. So what we got going on for today, man? What's up for Bison Nation today?
So Bison Nation, we got a treat for you today. You know, we've been interviewing some outside coaches and high school coaches to kind of give us their perspective on the program. Well, now we're coming inside the house. So we have one of our cool assistant coaches coming to the stage. So in June of 2021, Coach Ongley came to the program, came to the Bison family, came to HU after serving 2 seasons at Dartmouth. And before Dartmouth, Coach Ongley and Coach Blakeney were members of the 2018 and 2019 Columbia Lions staff under Coach Jim Ingles. In his 1 year there, Coach Ongley coached the forwards and the centers. And he arrived at Columbia after a 4-year stint as an assistant at his alma mater, Colby College in Waterville, Maine. His duties there included recruiting coordinator, scheduling coordinator, team travel coordinator, player development for practices, film breakdown, scouting reports, and statistical analysis. So between his stints at Colby and Columbia, Coach Ongley served as the video coordinator at Boston University and coached at Daniel Hand High School in Madison, Connecticut. So we got the brains of the operation coming to the stage. So Bison Nation, we're going to give a good showtime welcome to Coach Steve Ongley. Welcome.
Hey.
Brian, thank you for having me so much.
Oh,
yeah.
We want you to come with it.
Like we're in the Burr. Let's go.
Sit always.
Exactly.
Always repping the Burr, baby. Yes, you got me in my feelings right now.
There you go.
Always got to bring that big Burr energy.
That's
You
right.
got to do it.
No place
You
like
gotta
home,
do it.
man. No place like home.
Coach Steve is in the building. Coach Steve, it's good to have you on the show, brother.
Thank you. Represent themselves and hopefully better their futures.
Love that.
Okay.
Love that.
So I got a kind of a tangential question, which you kind of answered, but I'm gonna try to frame it another way just to see if maybe get some more out of you, because we asked a lot of the high school coaches, hey, what what do you see as the ideal candidate for Howard? Mm-hmm. And so since you kind of just talked about you're playing, what type of kids you want, so that I kind of want to go deeper on that. What is the type of kid that you're looking for at Howard? And kind of my other question was like, is it a collaborative process in the recruiting, stage? Like, how does that go? So it's kind of a combination. What do you see as the, what you're looking for in terms of a kid, and how collaborative is the process when it comes to recruiting and, giving a kid a scholarship?
Yeah, I'll answer the second one first and the first one second, if that's okay, just to make sense in my brain. But it is a collaborative effort, right? We've all got our binoculars out 24/7, scanning the landscape for basketball players. I was just at a tournament in Omaha this weekend. Tyler was in Memphis for a Nike event. Rod Balanis was in Baltimore and Mannheim, Pennsylvania for 2 events. So, we're constantly, when we're allowed out, right? There's the NCAA regulations on when we can actually travel, but when we're allowed out, we're constantly looking for players. And I think for us and for Coach Kenny, for Coach KB and kind of the guys that we want, we like, guys that can all shoot, pass, and dribble, right? If you've noticed, we played with centers that might only be 6'6", like a Shai Odom, but he was rookie of the year and most outstanding player of the tournament that year on a team that was loaded with talented players because of his ability to shoot, pass, and dribble at that position, right? At the 5 spot, which is non-traditional. And I would say in our league, most of the centers in our league are incredibly athletic, block shots, more defensive minded than offensive minded. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we felt like our ability to move people around the floor and stretch it out a little bit more made us a little bit more potent on offense, and we could get away with it defensively if we found guys that also played with a high motor and kind of check the boxes. We call it hunting, for lack of a better word. We say, hey, are you a hunter? Like, are you out there trying to deflect passes? Are you out there, talking and pointing the whole time? Or there's these intangibles that go into winning on the defensive side of the ball that we are obnoxiously consistent about. Like, if you aren't doing it, we are telling you constantly. And if you aren't doing it during the season, we don't have to tell you because you're going to be sitting down. So, it's really, it really, those are the pieces that we look for. We love skill. We love to play a wide open, beautiful game, so to speak, a more modern offensive game. But, Kenny played for Coach K and Morgan Woot, and those guys are old school defensive first basketball players. Like, we want to get into people and make their life miserable defensively. And then we want to celebrate on the offensive end by moving the ball and just finding the next man that's open and the best available shot. It's a fun brand to play. It's a fun brand to coach. And it's a fun brand to scout because it's really easy. You can see who's going to maybe fit that bill and maybe who won't pretty quickly.
Okay. So look, as Brian said, I have a zillion questions, so I don't want to take them all. Brian, if you got some more, but if not,
I always have some, man. I always have some. I have a couple that are I call it rapid fire. That's the section here. So I know we appreciate the deep questions, but we got to ask a few just so people know who you are a little bit more. So, all right. So it's going to be maybe 3 or 4 here. Let's see, and then I'll let Chip go back to his whole book of questions there. So what's the best gym you've ever coached in?
I would say Fall Gallon Fieldhouse in Kansas. I think that was a bucket list item for sure. Wasn't the best gym when we left because we didn't play well, but it was certainly a really cool basketball experience that I quite frankly never thought I would have.
Oh, that's awesome. And Chip, that's the one you said we were gonna win that game against Kansas, right? That was your overreaction very early in the season.
It was the impetus for starting the podcast. I said, you know what? I'm going to get on air because we're going to beat Kansas and we'll look like geniuses when I
It
predict.
was a revenge game for us, right?
It was a revenge game. Is exactly right.
We're all ready for it. So we
All right,
wanted
so-
to too. I promise you that.
So next up, because we got somebody on the call that is a master of hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
I know. He's looking around like he doesn't know who he is. All right, so another fun one. What's your favorite basketball movie of all time?
Ooh. Wow, that is a really good one because there's some really iconic basketball films out there. I would say it's probably a tie between He Got Game and Hoop Dreams. I think those are two really incredible basketball films. Maybe not fully centered on basketball, right? There's more life involved in both of those, but I just think they were beautifully told stories, and I really, really liked them. And the 13s that Denzel wants, I played in those in 7th grade. Those were my shoes, and that was my shoe in 7th grade. So I love those 13s. They have a romantic memory in my brain too. So
that's special.
I totally understand. I totally understand.
I love that. So a couple more. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I really don't know. I had a lot of jobs before I got into coaching, right? I've only been coaching collegiately for 10, 11 years now. I was coaching in high school before that. I'd probably say teacher, but I don't really know if I would have stuck with it if I wasn't able to coach basketball. You know what I mean? If if basketball wasn't part of the equation, I don't know what I'd be. I really don't know if I would have stuck with it. It's a really interesting thought question. And if I ever unfortunately get the axe at one of these jobs and I have to think about that in real life, I'm gonna struggle. I'll tell you that right now. It's gonna be a struggle to figure it out. But
I love it. I mean, you've been disclosing a love of teaching as long as it centers around seeing guys develop. So my bet is that you'd figure out how to keep people developing if it wasn't basketball. Just you disclose that, so I just know that you'll lean into that because that's the magic, right? The basketball dribbles, but when you get a new set of folks now every year, you have a chance to imprint. You said 6 or 7 people gone to play professionally.
Yeah,
that's huge. That is
great.
Not something that people can claim. So I like it. Teaching is in the frame. I just don't know if you'll be teaching home economics or anything that may require you to love something as passionately as basketball.
Yeah, the more I do it, the more I think I like the psychology of teaming, like just bringing people together and helping them figure out problems. I'm not necessarily great at figuring out my own problems. I'll be honest, but I'm more than happy to help other people figure out theirs. That's always been true of me, and I think that will be true forever. So something about that teaming and bringing people together. I think you're right, Brian. I think that's probably right in my alley.
So I can only speak from experience. The job I decided to take requires me to put teams together all the time, and I enjoy seeing teams that thrive, and coaching them up a little bit makes it fun. So I think that's where my love of seeing teams come together translated into a job. So if you ever need to talk about work, we can talk about that. We can figure out, but I want you to keep coaching.
I'll pick up anyone's brain that does team stuff because I think it's all relatable. I really do. Yep. I've coached other sports. I've coached other age groups. I think it all looks the same at some point, in the psychological level.
I'm just these are the fun ones. So I'm just making sure people got to know. So last one, and then I'm gonna kick it back over to my co-host Chip here. And this is actually a tough one because it's only one word. You got to think about it and just say the word. So what's the one word that describes Howard basketball right now?
Whew.
No ties, no extra words, just one word.
That's why I'm giving it real thought here. I don't want to. I don't want to have any caveats.
Why are you thinking?
I think relentless. I'm just going to say it. Relentless.
I like that.
Boom.
Sorry, Chip. I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't want to.
Chip was going to give you an out. He was going to give you a phrase, a context setter. He's going to say, "Well, let me set some context for you."
No, I heard the rules. I heard the rules. One word, relentless.
Dig that. Okay.
I think the rules. Remember, I think when we asked Destiny, I think it was something that was a one, and she gave a hyphen, or maybe it was Zoe. I think it was Zoe Stewart.
Zoe gave a hyphen or something.
She matched 2 words with a
hyphen.
To mash them
up.
All these smart school kids. I'm a state school guy. I just need one word. I don't need.
That's right. That's right. Just one.
Yeah. I just need one. That's it.
Writing that down. Relentless. That's pretty good. Yeah, Chip.
Coach. You. Yeah, thank you
for letting me ask a few questions before you hit them with all the heavy stuff. Now, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna try to stay with the fun stuff. This one, I'm appreciating your storytelling ability. I mean, I'm still enjoying the challenging bus ride to Cleveland. That's
bingo.
That's
bingo.
That's gonna stick with me forever.
Hey, good.
But it's on that same kind of maybe storytelling. You've been a part of some big wins, and I wondered do you have any halftime speech that you ever heard or given? Any stories around that?
This is going to be a real big throwback. So when I was home as a high school coach, I had the privilege of coaching a girls' middle school 7th grade travel basketball team, which to this day, I will tell you, was the most fun I ever had coaching. I don't know if it'll ever be replicated in terms of fun. But needless to say, in my town in Madison, there was an A team and a B team, and they needed a coach for the B team. So my sister was in the program. I had played through the program, and they had known I was home. So they asked if I would help out, and it had helped out with my sister's team, so I did it. So I took the B team. So I didn't get to pick my team. They were just delivered to me, and this was my team. They were a phenomenal group of young ladies, young girls at the time, now young women. They've all matured on to be wonderful people, but they definitely had a chip on their shoulder about being the B team. I never called them that. They took that moniker on their own. So we have a Thanksgiving tournament every year, and we're both the A team and the B team are in it, but we're on opposite sides of the bracket. So if we play down, it's not going to happen until the final. So we get to the final, and before the game, I'm like, all right, we're playing the other team in Madison. Like, let's, remove the emotion from it. Let's just have, let's get out there and try to keep it lax and just let it come to us. And we've been winning and we're playing our style. Don't worry about them. And they didn't listen to any of that. They literally just ran through. Like we won the game. It was a close game the whole way, but they were just so intensely focused on winning this game. And it had nothing to do with the speech or the halftime, but I'll never forget after the game, we're standing there holding up, the number one and holding our trophies. And I found out the next day that they all brought their trophies to school and, brought them to lunch and brought them everywhere. Like it was just, again, that wasn't a speech. So maybe I'm skirting your question a little bit, but just like that combination of just like fire from them and just understanding of the moment and just their willingness, and then their willingness to kind of like rub it in a little bit, but not, in a ungracious way, but just like that really set the tone for that group and really what's possible when you have people that, have a common goal, right? Just they weren't going to listen to me that game in terms of how I wanted them to see it because they had a different vision, and that was okay. Like their vision made sense and it was collective. And I think those are the teams and the speeches that make sense. Anytime you have someone whose vision aligns, and I didn't understand it, I was not a part of it, right? I didn't refer to them as the B team. And I think from then on, we were the A team. You know what I mean? That was it. We'd won the game and that was us. So that by far was the most memorable, like in-game, post-game stuff I ever had. It'll stick with me forever.
Okay.
Not Howard related. I'm sorry. I know.
No. This is learning about Coach Steve. This is Coach Steve hour right here. I love it.
So look, I got plenty of Howard related questions. So So and look, we'll probably try to kind of segue into maybe I would call it the autopsy section. When looking back at the season, and I believe the answer is probably injuries, but in a broad sense, what would you say are some of the factors that kind of caused us to come up short this past season and getting the title?
Yeah, I think injuries were certainly a part of it, right? We suffer. Bryce Harris was voted preseason player of the year, deservedly so. And unfortunately got hurt, tried to come back. It just didn't work. And out of respect for what's best for him, you have to shut him down. It's like, could we have won a couple more games, even with them playing maybe semi-hurt? Sure. But is that what's best for Bryce Harris? And is even that what's best for Howard? I would argue not. Bryce can finish as one of the winningest players of all time in the program, and he deserves that. So putting him out there when he can't help you do that is a disservice to him. Other guys who played on that team in terms of Osi Okoji and Dom Campbell played limited minutes for us this year. Our young point guard out of New Jersey as a freshman who would have helped, with the backcourt depth, didn't play a minute for us this year as well. I think that had a big part to do with it. Now, what's funny is we went to Brazil in August and we played really well. We really liked what we had in these older guys, and some guys were starting to impress. Blake really came out of his shell on that trip and started to show himself as a really good player. And I think that reliance on new bodies once the season hit, the guys that hadn't really heard our language, and again, like I spoke of earlier, maybe we didn't do a good enough job, relaying that, or I'm not going to say we didn't do a good enough job, because I thought we really, we didn't handle it any different than we had in years past, but it just didn't hit the same for whatever reason. And I don't know if it was because the habits those guys had coming from other programs maybe didn't align as much with ours, and they were just kind of running from it. It's interesting when you give guys more responsibility than what they've had before, because everyone tells you that's what they want, right? I want more. Give me more. Well, then you put it in front of them, and the accountability that goes with that more, like there's a couple abilities that come with responsibility, right? Accountability, relatability, ingenuity. Like there's all these things that you have to then do to help solve these problems or help, embrace that role. And I think it's really hard for guys to truly do that if they haven't done it before. Like to jump into that with 2 feet and say like, oh, you wanted the basketball? Like, well, you got it now. That's a really hard place to be if you're not used to it, and if it's not something that you've done before. And unfortunately, in a 32 game season, you don't have, it's not the NBA where you get 25 games just to figure it out, right? You gotta, and to our credit, we were 7-3 going in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. So we'd actually put ourselves in a position to be, a top 1-2 seed in that tournament. And then we just kind of faltered down the back stretch. I think for a plethora of reasons, but probably related to those things too. And some of those were tough losses. They weren't necessarily like we were getting drilled. We just, we came up short a few times, but ultimately I thought those guys grew into their responsibilities, but it probably just took them a little too long and took us a little too long to figure that part out and how to convey it to them in a way that made sense to them. Right. And got them on our wavelength faster. And they could have got on ours faster too. I think they would admit that as well, hopefully, if we're being honest.
And I think to your point, earlier, that's probably going to be the challenge every year. Because like you said, you got 11, new guys and, rinse and repeat.
Well, absolutely. And you notice too, I think, we've had a great track record in the portal. We've lost some incredible players, right? Steve Settle, Elijah Hawkins, now Blake Harper, Jordan Wood, some really good players, Shai Odom, some really good players that have come through here and helped us win and then moved on. But we've also brought in some really talented players too. Isaiah Warfield, Jelani Williams, Seth Towns, Jordan Harrison, those guys are champions. And they backed up a championship that they, outside of Jelani, didn't win.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they came into a team that, I think that's the other piece too, Chip, and I omitted this before, but and Brian could probably speak to it too, because I know he's seen it a bunch. Everyone wants to kick our ass. Like we don't get a night off, even in the non-conference. Like because of what we've accomplished before these guys got here, we're Duke. Even my first year, teams were going at us, and they, like you said, they were coming off a 4-29, 1-4 shortened COVID season. And I was like, why does everyone want to kill us? Like, our brains in for years. What are they, But they saw us as a threat, right? They saw what was happening, and that momentum. We get everybody's best game. There's no doubt, and again, that challenge is really hard for a group of guys who haven't seen it before, because that's not what was happening at their other institutions. They were allowed to just kind of sneak up on guys, and if they won, they won. If they didn't, they didn't. But Howard doesn't sneak up on anyone. We got a Jordan logo on our chest. Everybody wants the gear. Everybody wants the campus life. Everyone wants the stories they hear about Howard. Everyone wants the homecoming. Like, it's real. It's really real. And that motivates people to come kick our butts. And we need to have the guys that are ready to just get to it right away and not worry, like, why is everyone trying to kick our butt? Not be me. Why is everyone trying to kick our ass? Just go kick your ass back. Just start punching and we'll figure it out at the end.
That's right. We always get everybody the best shot. And there's a reason for it. A lot of it's now because we have really strong teams, but if you watch any TV show for more than 5 minutes, you get a Howard reference before you get any other reference to anything else. So people think this is the only school that exists. I don't blame them for hating us a little bit, but I do think that the kids who come in that don't know that seem to be taken aback when somebody's playing up in them, like you said earlier. The defense is tighter. The people are having record games against us. They're like, man, this guy hadn't made a shot all season, and against Howard, he decided to go for 40.
And you know what? The new guys, they're not two-time champions. The guys who are on this roster this year that were two-time champions were in the minority. The majority of that roster, didn't win 2 rings, so they're not. That's not their perspective, and I can't blame them for that. You know what I mean? Like, as much as you can say that to them, and hey, they're going to want to kick your ass, and they want this and they want that. They're not, until it starts happening. Then it's like, oh, this is real. But sometimes that's too late, right? Because you didn't come to war with the right tools. You know what I mean?
Right.
With the right mentality. So I think that happened to us a couple of times this year too, where people just punched us in the mouth, and the guys were like, "Why is everybody punching us?" Like, we got 2 rings, man. They want those. Right. They thought they were theirs.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. And just because I know we're probably coming up on time here, I have to ask, because of your scouting ability and that whole demonstration you did with the little things on the board, the little pigs or whatever. But so because we have a running joke here about who we think is our biggest competition in league play, who would you say is our biggest competition in the current league we sit in today?
I mean, it's got to be Norfolk. We've developed a really great rivalry with them, and I think Rob Jones, first of all, does a phenomenal job. Like, they are winning 20 games like clockwork, non-conference. They're having trouble scheduling just like we are. I know the top teams in our league have done that. I think, just knowing. And again, I don't want to. This is not to be disrespectful to the other teams in our league at all. I think everyone is a formidable opponent, and we've won and lost to every team in this league. So it's not that's not an understatement. But I remember my first year going down there, and we lost to them twice, and we lost in the first round of the tournament, so we didn't even get to see them again. And then my second year, we ripped through the league, right? We were 11-3. We blew them out on senior night at home to win the title. And then we went and backed it up in the championship game as well. And after that, I saw them around the in the recruiting world, the basketball world that summer. They finally acknowledged us. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
We were on the board, right? So to speak. Like, until you do it, I don't know if you really have respect for everybody that's coming for your neck. You know what I mean? Like, you think you want to be the champion, but like, until it happens. And, credit to them. They got back there this year, and obviously they had a phenomenal season.
They did.
But, that's, I think, by far and away, that's been our most intense game year in, year out. Now, all the games are competitive, but by far, I think that's them right now.
I felt like go ahead, Brian. I see a snarky response coming.
Not me. No, I may or may not have given Coach Jones the business when we were in Norfolk this past MEAC week, and he was ordering breakfast from a little spot around the corner, and he had to laugh because I was like, yeah, maybe not this year, but you're looking for us, right? And he just laughed. He's like, you got to get your game up. And I was like,
look, that's the best part. When you win, you can say whatever you want, man. Like,
that's right.
Right.
You can't say anything when you don't win. And I think, 2 years in a row, and, we'd beaten them in the semis last year in a game where we were the 4 seed and they were the 1 seed. So I think, they were out for a vengeance this year. And I think that team had more guys that carried it over, right? More guys that played in that game more. And that really, I thought, fueled their season because they had an intensity to them in a business-like approach that, we had the years prior. And that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's it. That was all, Chip. We're talking a lot of smack, and I'm bringing it all the time. They got to come see me.
Yeah. Let me know if you think, because this was my observation this year, kind of say even versus the past couple of years, I thought the top 4 teams were more formidable this past season than I've kind of seen in the recent past. Like we joke, we do a kind of a MEAC conference preview, and I told the guys I thought South Carolina State was going to be good, and they clowned me, they laughed me, but I thought Delaware State, I thought South Carolina State, I thought they were top-notch teams. Was I off with that observation?
Not at all. A year ago we thought, or I should say 2 years ago, when Jason Crafton's maybe second to last year at UMES, we thought they were the best team in the regular season. They got a couple injuries in the backcourt. And we thought they were really going to go into the tournament and maybe give some people some trouble. And they ended up, not having a full roster in the playoff time. But that was the same thing about South Carolina State last year. Like, man, if all these guys come back, like, they play hard as heck. That's a tough gym to win in, no matter who's on the floor. You could put Duke in there, and I'm sure they'd give them a hard time. Like, it's a really tough environment. And I thought this was the deepest the league had been. Coach Moten at Central is a legend, right? He's won multiple titles. Stan Waterman at Dell State is a USA basketball all-time winningest high school coach in the state. Like, he has a pedigree of winning. Casey Shaw, like some of the kids on that UMES roster this year, Casey Shaw could play for any team in the country. Like, and you could take guys off of every team and really put them anywhere and they would work, well. So I thought it was the deepest the league had been since I got here. And I think that's a testament to the staffs. And honestly, if you're talking about elevating the MEAC and a rising tide lifting all boats, like, that's what you need. You want the teams to all be good. You want them to be as good as they can possibly be, and then whoever wins at the end is the best. And that's how it goes. Like, you don't want the days where one team just rips through the league and everybody else is just sitting by the wayside, because that's not a good conference. That's not a strong league. And the league has by far, Chip, gotten stronger. So don't let those guys bully you into not saying that, this year as well. I don't know what everybody's roster looks like yet, but I'm sure everybody will be coming for everybody, come November, December, January, just like they did this year.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that stage. I definitely know that quite a few of the teams, they've lost, quite a few people. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how we're heading into the season. But yeah, definitely. Kind of continuing on the autopsy standpoint, and it's not necessarily Howard related, but there's been a lot of talk in the media about the NIL and the transfer portal. I think it was Jay Will who said, the transfer portal was going to be the death of the mid majors, and even it was going to stunt the growth of high school players coming into college. I don't necessarily agree. I wanted to get kind of your thoughts on that. What do you think about those sentiments that seem to be discussed?
Yeah, I think, first of all, evolution is a guarantee. There's not a lot of guarantees in this world. Evolution is one of them. Like, things are going to evolve. Nothing is going to stay the same. And although I can appreciate the nostalgia of, my playing days or whatever, that's just the reality. So thinking that it's going to ruin something, I think, is incorrect, because I'm sure they said the same thing when they took belts off basketball shorts. So at some point there were changes along the way that have, modernized the game. When the 3-point line came in, everyone said it was going to ruin the game. Seems like people seem to like the 3-point game now. So I just think, that's the natural, easy, tried and true take that I don't think requires much thought in terms of actually what's happening. The transfer portal is a necessary tool. It always has been. It's now just being utilized by both sides, if that makes sense. Before, was very one-sided, right? You had to sit out a year. There was penalties to it. But coach, if a kid went in, it was really because he wanted to move somewhere, and you really had to be dedicated to that move, right? Now we got guys that could be 4 schools in 4 years, 4 different paychecks, 4 different areas of the country. And although I don't necessarily agree with that from an educational standpoint, I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't do it if it's what's best for them and their families, because right now in college athletics, maybe some of these guys are making more money as basketball players than they'll ever make in the rest of their career. So who's to say that you shouldn't be able to do that? And I think, like any unregulated market, NIL right now is just the Wild West, right? People can overpay pretty easily. I always use this, like the marijuana legalization time. Do you remember when every store was selling some version of it in glass pipes? And now all of a sudden they all look like doctor's offices, right? And it's very streamlined and professional, right? Eventually that will happen to this market too. And in whatever way that happens, I think what you'll see is most likely what Kentucky did, where they've now taken their athletic department off the books, right? It's not on the university's books anymore. They're their own LLC. People will start thinking of this as a business. And, you can say what you want about it ruining college basketball. What were the numbers from this year's tournament in terms of watching? I'm pretty sure it was the most watched tournament in years. So although it may hurt some parts of college basketball, it's also going to guarantee that older players stay longer, which means our product is better because you've got more experience. There's never a time where more experience usually hurts you. So I think Jay's wrong patently, but it's just, I think it's something that I understand the quick, this sucks, it's new, I don't like it, versus thinking about it honestly. And I'm sure if Jay Williams was playing right now and someone offered him $1.2 million to leave Duke, he'd do it. So,
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Well, Coach, we respect your time. I'm gonna try to land this plane. I got a couple more, and we'll wind it down. I can see Brian giving me Brian's giving me the stink eye, like Chip, will you shut up? But I was so excited about you coming on.
This is a dream come true, man. This is the ultimate validation here, Coach, because we've been talking about things and talking to players, talking to people who are around the program. So to have you on the show just lets everybody know that, as you were telling us a little bit earlier in pre-show, is that we're here to help make sure Howard continues to shine. And so getting some time with you is always good. And I do this move here called there's the editing floor. We'll figure out how we're gonna piece this together. It's gonna be great.
I know there's one thing you guys will make me look good. That's all.
We're gonna make sure you look good for sure. So Chip, ask away, man. You're good to go.
All right. So I was gonna say, kind of in that vein, what do you see as the role of fans and alumni in supporting the teams, and maybe even a related question is like, how can we as fans better support the program?
Absolutely. It's funny if you think back to 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the stories about boosters giving guys, wads of cash behind a, gas station in town, and all these nefarious ways that guys got money, and now we can give it to them legally. So first things first, like, please don't hesitate to open your wallets and help people that do need the help. And that's not just for basketball athletes. That's for all the athletes at Howard. We're winning a lot of titles here and a lot of programs. And I know all the coaches can benefit from that, not just us, right? The chance to build new facilities, the chance to enhance existing facilities. Those are things that will help performance, right? Anything that can help boost performance ultimately is good for Howard. I love basketball. I love Howard basketball. I didn't go to Howard, so my attachment to the university is only because I worked there. Those of you that went there, all I hear are these romantic, wonderful tales, and not tales in a fabricated sense, but just like long, winding epics of their journey here and how I've formulated them as human beings. One, it makes me a little jealous because I transferred. I was like a little bit of a basketball nomad, college nomad. And I didn't have that 4-year guaranteed experience. So I just find it interesting that folks have such an attachment to a place. And I'm telling you, the thing that will help basketball players or athletes have that same attachment is a little bit of pocket change and just your support in games, showing up, being there and making your voice heard. I think if you're a fan of Howard University, we're not turning it to Howard Athletics University. We want it to be the same Howard you experienced, just with more banners and more championships and more opportunities to see us on TV and playing in nationally televised games and winning nationally televised games, and the track team competing in the national tournament. Like all of these things, we want softball in the NCAA tournament. We want them beating, Liberty just upset the number 1 team in the country. Why can't that be Howard? Right? Like there's no reason it can't be Howard. I can tell you that because everyone takes our phone calls. Everyone's curious about Howard, but we need some, more oomph behind kind of what we're doing. And it can't just be about the wonderful people here. They get a lot done. We could always use a little bit more help.
Love that.
All right. Bison Nation, you heard it.
Is that a good ad? What do we think there? Is that all right? Is that too much love? Is that too little love?
That's all love right there. Right. It's again the getting people to adapt to the new behaviors that we need to show. Like we are always investing in the school when there seems to be a crisis, or when we think that a school that maybe is not getting enough love, we tend to get really excited about righting a wrong. But to your point, there's this is championship city now, and we enjoy it when it hits the news, or we get it on our social media news feeds or what have you. But hearing directly from here's how we can help, this is exactly what we do. Every episode we just say it's always time to give back. It's always time to in butts and seats. We want people to see what's going on.
Well, and that's hopefully your butts in the seat to see what you're putting your work towards, right? Like what leads to success? Consistency. So consistency in donating is the same thing. If it's $20 a month for the rest of your life, then it's $20 a month the rest of your life. Like whatever that number is for you, I think it's about the consistency and the frequency of doing it. It's not about one big number and I gave back and that's my job. Like it's about showing up every day. And how can you do that as an alum? You guys can speak that better than I can, but in my mind, it's the consistency of, financial return and the consistency of showing up. And again, we're an open door. So you want some access, come say hi, stop us after a game, come to a practice. We're more than willing to welcome anyone in the Howard family into our doors anytime, into our circle anytime. We've shown that, we've done that, and we will continue to do that for as long as we are the staff, that is here, and KB's in charge, because that's ultimately coming from him. And he's a guy who has that vision, has continued it on.
Absolutely. That's a true story for those listening in. Everything that Coach Steve has mentioned, I've experienced firsthand. I will tell you that adding the scrimmage to the Howard homecoming weekend, which is still the most searched homecoming on Google it. The idea is that the access is there. So if you want to see what the program's about, it's they literally bring it to you. So if you just happen to be in town and can check it out, please do. And I just I see what when you're around the program, like I've been for the last 4 years or so. I'm seeing the growth. I am also seeing the frustration of not seeing enough of us traveling to see the team. I've talked to a lot of the parents who make those trips and realize that, man, Howard talks about being this big school and all in, but we don't see you, when it comes time to go into Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Sure.
So there's opportunity for us to, even those of us who are not in DC, if we're near a game, coming out to the game. And we just want to make sure we keep reiterating that's the consistency we want to build with Bison Nation. Of it doesn't take much. You just have to come. And I think once you see it and you experience it, this is where you say, when can I get to the next one? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you two fluff questions to bring it on home.
Okay.
And I might know the answer, but right now on the coaching staff, who's the best player in the coaching staff? Not in your prime. Right now, who's taking who
right
after
now
practice?
I mean,
who's taking who after practice?
I hate to say it because I know all of us will say ourselves, but Ty Thornton, I think, would probably do work on all of us right now. He's younger than myself. He's Kenny will never say that he would lose a game. So I'm sure if you ask KB, he'll say it was him. He'll say it's him. rather die than lose. So, but Ty is in the gym. 2 years ago I was practicing with the team, but I'm a big stiff. He's an all-world guard and played on the same team with Kyrie Irving. So I think he's going to take the cake on ones. But I will say this: when Coach Ty and I have practiced with the team, our teams don't lose. Whether it's my team or his team, we're winning in practice still, even at our old age, our ripe old ages in the 30s and 40s. So, fully healthy, I'll help myself on fives. I know I can do some damage out there, but I'm not a one-on-one player. Coach Ty would torch me, absolutely torch me.
I love that.
Yeah. And our final question, we ask all of our guests this, and there's only one right answer. So
only one right answer.
Oh my goodness.
Who is the GOAT? LeBron or MJ? And why?
Yeah, you guys, I know who you think the GOAT is. I can already tell. I've been a big LeBron guy my whole life because I think he's the size of Karl Malone and he plays like Magic Johnson. So if we're talking about the ability to play basketball, right? I would have to argue. I think it's LeBron James. If it's about winning the
youth is killing us right now.
No.
This guy's responsible for shaping the young minds of our basketball program.
If you wanna talk about championships and the killer instinct and all that stuff, I'll give you MJ all day. I think I'm lucky enough to have watched both in their primes. I think we're talking about 1A, 1B, 1C, depending on where you put Kobe in this conversation. But I just think it's about how you want to define the best player, and that's the argument for me, because comparing eras is fruitless, right? Like I'm not quite JJ Redick, where I'm going to call everybody plumbers from the 50s, but it's just a different. It was just a different game, right? Like it was a different game. There might have been a LeBron James before LeBron James. He just was Oscar Robertson the best player in the world at one point? He's just. Would it have been Kevin Durant if he had stayed healthy? Or, there's just so many weird, especially positionally. Is it going to be Victor Wembanyama when it's all said and done? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be someone that is 7 feet that all of a sudden plays like a guard? But I understand the love for Michael. I have it too. I watched, back then, I have the NBA on NBC theme song in my head, drilled in my head forever because of John Tesh just hitting the keys. So I have respect for Michael. I think he is. For me, it's such a thin line, and it really just depends on how you want to define it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Chip. I love Coach being on the show today. It just you can't be good at everything, so that's good. I'm glad he was able to. He was able to get all the way to the end. He missed that free throw at the end, so the championship.
I knew what you wanted me to say. But I had to at least speak my truth, right?
I'm only laughing because even if you tune in and zoom in just a little bit, that is an Air Jordan logo on his shirt, not an Air LeBron.
I look. Fully support the man. Love watching him. I think he's an incredible basketball player.
Yeah.
There's I don't hate anyone who says he's the best. I'm fine with that answer too. I'm fine.
That's good.
Well, it's like you said earlier. You made a mistake in picking LeBron, but it's how you responded.
It was a slight dip in your performance. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just how you respond.
That's right.
But you're back. Dr. Carr, he's back.
I've got to go back to bed. I got to take my 5-minute nap, and then I start again. That's
You're right back. We should have asked him after his nap. See, the problem is he's tired. So.
I'm right into it, man.
Oh, this is awesome.
Hey, well, we're more than appreciative of the time that you gave us, Coach, and we really, really appreciate it. Like I said, you're welcome back at any time, especially like I said, when we get into the season, if you want to jump on and throw some pegs as a preview.
Whiteboard. I got plenty of space on these walls back here. I can get a whiteboard.
Hey.
So walk around.
There we go.
We can just shoot it on the screen, whatever we got to do. And I just want to say too, from myself and the program, thank you for you both. And I know one of your co-hosts is missing tonight. So, but we really appreciate all of the highlights and what you guys do behind the scenes to bring not just our program, but sports at Howard to the forefront. By no means do we want to change the school into purely athletics, because there's obviously brilliant people on the academic side too. But we do want to highlight these young men and women and all the things they're doing to make Howard a national name. And again, we're an open book. You can put up my contacts, whatever. I won't put my cell on here, but email is fine. I answer all that stuff. And if it's tickets to a game, if it's when are we practicing, if it's we're in your city and we want to sit down and see you for dinner, whatever it is, we're more than open. That's been KB's policy from the minute he took the job. And it's something that we really hold true and dear. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you again for all you guys do to help us push the program forward. It really means a lot.
Appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Do it out of love. Do it out of love.
Absolutely.
Well, Bison Nation, we are so thrilled to have Coach Steve Ongley be with us for this time. We hope you enjoyed this show. And Bison Nation, we're going to end this show like we end every show. You know how we do it. You know.